Hey everyone, welcome to the Vlog of Time. I am Zach, and you're going to be hearing some weird background sounds and stuff. Like I said with the Vlog of Time, I don't know where I'm going to be recording this. This is something I'm trying to do weekly, and currently I'm off the side of my road in the middle of Las Vegas, in the middle of bum truck nowhere, doing this. So this is going to be fun. I actually have a blanket on me, and it is a little hot, but we'll see how things go. But I wanted to record this episode. I'm going to be talking about a few chapters from The Wheel of Time, The Eye of the World, and I had a lot of fun this week. This was a lot of fun reading it and speculating, and this is one of those where I try to set a limit of how much I can read, but sometimes I go over, sometimes I'm like, this is my cutoff period, then next week I'll read more, or I'll stack recordings, but this is the case of, I read a couple chapters, I just wanted to talk about it, so why don't we kick right into it? And this week I read the chapter, The Peddler, and I actually really enjoyed this chapter. When we get with Field, we have that it's a very small town, everyone's superstitious. Every time there's a new stranger coming into town, they're just like, what the heck is this? And we meet this with the merchant peddler, Podden Fane, who comes to town. Everyone's having their hustle and bustle, but he kind of brings weird news of the false dragon coming. Not really, but everyone's kind of up in a roar, and this is where like the town's superstition and also the town's kind of small nature to it kind of get the best of everyone, as a character named Senbui is just like, oh my god, we have to get pitchforks and stuff. They might be 1,000 leagues or 1,000 miles away, but who cares? We got to set up patrols. We're all doomed, you say. He's almost like Crazy Ralph in the Friday the 13th movies, where it's like, you're all doomed. You get that type of small town superstition, or that type of like small town paranoia that we see. And when it comes to this chapter, that I kept thinking about with this is, oh no, this makes sense, because when it comes down to medieval history, or at least with history up until before the internet, sometimes you would have merchants or peddlers coming in to these small towns and giving news that might be right or might be wrong. And sometimes it could be weeks or months before they even get the news. I remember there's cases of people that were like living like super far west, in the Appalachian Mountains, didn't even know there was a Revolutionary War going on until it was all over. Like, wait, what? We're now Americans? Oh, okay. Well, moving on with my life, because I'm going to continue, is that we get this here with like this misinformation. We get to meet, our cast of usual suspects. We have Matt. We're actually introduced to Perrin, who is a blacksmith, and we're also introduced to Egwene. And now that I have a pronunciation guide, because I didn't realize the back of the book had this, thank you, listener that commented, because I have that problem. I apologize. If I see a name, it's always in my head, it's like, I never really say it out loud until you have to say it, and that is Nenyev. That's how you say it? Yeah, so we're introduced to a lot of cast of characters, and they're talking about this false dragon who is, I guess, the whole legend of Lews Therin has kind of spread to the sense of, if you're a dragon or the dragon reborn, this is bad, because the male line of the Aes Sedai is tainted in a way where you just go mad if you use the magic, whereas the women's side doesn't. And I guess they use like the name of like the dragon, like anyone can in theory say, I'm the dragon, and bad things will usually happen with this, because usually it's the person that can do magic. And I found this to be interesting because they're using the story. It's spread, obviously, it's a legend, because with the prologue, we kind of see how this began, but there's always like hints of truth in this. And I find that, we have like the oral tradition, we have all this stuff of it just didn't fade, and someone's not going to find like a dusty book and be like, oh, here's the thing with like the whole dragon stuff. Ooh, spooky. I would never see any of that stuff, which I like. One of the things that I thought was kind of funny when it comes to this chapter is Rand gets to meet Egwene, and obviously he has a crush on her, and she's almost the exact opposite. Like, nah, I'm not getting married. I'm going to become a wisdom, and wisdoms don't get married, really, and you basically are cool and all. Like, he just gets, like, soft dumped before they even started dating. And I kind of like this because we have, like, these little moments. We're showing that every character is growing up in a way, especially when it comes to Egwene. Like, her hair is braided now. This is more of a cultural thing, like in Field, where girls that become women braid their hair, so she has her hair now braided, whereas Rand's like, I don't know what to do. Even though they kind of bring up that maybe he might be growing wisps of hair on his face, like he's going to be getting a beard, so, we're getting more of the puberty type of stuff. But I like these interactions because it's more of a soft letdown, but also at the same time, it's a realistic thing, especially for like, oh, I'm going to become the wisdom. I'm going to be doing all these things. And then we get to like Rand, who's more the narrow-minded archetype, who's I'm going to stay right in town. Emond's Field is my home, and it's always going to be my home. And now that I know pretty much that he's going to be ejected from the town, maybe because of what happens near the end of these chapters that I read, is we're getting, again, people kept saying like it had to be when it comes to the Eye of the World, like Lord of the Rings. I'm seeing a lot of the similarities, but at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of the monomyth, the hero's journey in many ways. And this is all fine. This is all dandy. And the peddler stuff is actually kind of fun because we have this character of Podden Fane who is almost a huckster in a way. Like he's really excited when he comes to town because he's the person that brings the news and everyone finds him super interesting. And I kept thinking this is like the equivalent of like a door-to-door salesman in the United States during World War II. He goes to a small rural town and everyone wants to know about that Hitler fellow all the way across in Germany. That's what it kind of felt like a little bit, but I guess maybe there might be some problems. We might get some comedy, some situational comedy between him and the Gleeman, but not really because we don't really see that all that much. But, you know, he normally when he comes, he's the center of attention, though he totally like, leaves his wares off to the side of the road. And he's like, well, I'm going to go get this nice mug of ale and we're going to drink some wine. And we're going to talk about this and the superstition of war. I'm actually getting a lot of the Scouring of the Shire vibes, especially with Emond's Field. I have a feeling that by the end of this story or this book or the series, whatever it's going to be, Emond's Field will not be the same as when it started. And we're going to see this most likely. So that's kind of, when it comes to the peddler, that's what we're kind of getting here. We see that Perrin also got a coin and seen the Hooded Stranger. Now, this is interesting to me because they keep bringing up these coins. It's either some magical artifact or a tracker or something that is it's going to get them into a situation that they really need to be in where they have to use the coin. And we're going to see this with this, or Moraine is going to be like, yep, this was a tracker all along so I could track your whereabouts because you are all super special in some way. I have a feeling what's going to be, it's a mixed hat. They were all probably born on the same week or the same day or something. And what evil forces are trying to get to them are like, oh, well, we don't know which one it is, so we're just going to kill them all, or we're going to figure out which one of you has magic, because this is what's kind of leading up a little bit. They keep bringing up the magic system in a way of, they keep pointing out, you know, magic ruins men, like it ruins that line, so I'm like, okay, we have these boys, they all seen this mysterious creature, they're destined to do something great, or there's some terrible secret that no one in the town is telling them, so we will see. And the chapter kind of ends with meeting of the Gleeman. So why don't we get to that one right now? So we have the Gleeman, which I like Tom Merlin a little bit because he has no filter. He's always grumpy. Like he comes into the inn and he like already hates the small town because none of them will serve him in the sense of like, well, I came here super late because the next town over was like, oh, you can get here by today. And he's like, no, you don't. You have to like leave by noon and everything about this is miserable. And the time that he comes, the innkeeper / mayor is like, what the heck are you doing here? It's like late o'clock. And he's like, no, it's your job to like serve me. I guess it's like not 24-hour, no vacancy type of stuff. But I like Tom Merlin in this way, though. Something that I noticed already when it comes to this book is that this book is almost like, hey, everyone, let's all pick on Nynaeve, because this is what kind of happens here, is everyone's like commenting how young she is, mostly from the dude's perspective, and even when it comes to Tom, he's pretty much like that the entire way. It's like, oh, you're a small slip of a woman. You're a little girl. You shouldn't be a wisdom. Like, what the heck is this? I guess this is like your medieval society book where Nynaeve is probably going to prove them all wrong and they're all going to shut their big old mouths. I have a feeling what's going to happen with this. Though, yeah, Tom's interesting because when we have these Gleeman, they're a lot like, they're just traveling bards. They have like these quilted capes. And they tell stories from days gone by, from the Age of Legends, from days before stories were really recorded. That's kind of their job. Though we have an interesting interaction when Moraine and Lan kind of show up, and Moraine is looking for stories within the two rivers, and Tom's like, oh, I can tell you a lot of stories. Yee-hee! And we kind of get like a little of those elements. Though what I like about this is it goes back to when it comes to the peddler is, they asked Tom about the whole thing about the false dragon, and it turns out this news is super duper old. Like, I'm surprised we even got it, because it's thousands of miles away, but yet they still have it. And that's something, again, you're looking at like conjecture, someone that comes to the town with like Podden Fane, where he's just like, I'm the center of the attention. I'm going to say this as if this is new news. Whereas when you have the Gleeman who comes in, who's a more well-traveled person as a traveling bard, really knows how the news really works compared to the one guy that gets really excited when he becomes the center of attention when normally he isn't because he's like a traveling door-to-door salesman a little bit. So we see stuff with that. Though, one thing that I noticed, especially when it comes to this chapter, is they keep bringing in the idea of the Dark Fiends and the Trollocs, but also superstition. I guess superstition is going to play a key role in this because they keep bringing up small things. We don't go here, we don't go to these bogs, we don't go to here because it's a small town. You all have those small superstitions. The town that I lived in when I was growing up, we all had these superstitions of, you don't go there, like the whole place is irradiated, there's a green mist that will grab you and pull you in. Like we see this here with like these bogs and the mountains of mist. And what I like about this is that, again, we're reinforcing the small town, but also at the same time, we're reinforcing that there is magic in this world. There actually is this type of super old magic, and I like that type of stuff. I think that stuff's kind of great in a lot of ways. Though, when Sambui and them all come back, they're like, we're going to set up patrols, things will be great. And Matt and Perrin are like, we're gonna do all this stuff, it's going to be awesome, we're going to be like real soldiers for a second. Whereas Rand and his dad Tam have to go back to the farm. And, it's one of those things where they're going to pretty much be bored all night with a whole town patrolling, even though the war isn't coming. And again, I'm getting like Scouring of the Shire vibes here. The war will eventually come here. Will this be the final battle of this book, or will this be the final battle of the series is going to take place in this small town? It sounds like they're setting it up in a way where this little place that's very insignificant is going to play a huge impact within the greater narrative of the world, because you're going to have all these characters like Rand, who's most likely our main character, coming from humble beginnings, and all the humble people of the town are going to, teach him all this lesson. So when he goes out into the real world and he sees the harsh reality of like, I live in the suburbs and everyone else lives in downtown Detroit when it comes to the cities and stuff. So that's something that's happening. Though the one cool thing that I liked about this as well is that Father actually believes him. He just didn't want to say it. And they kind of start to head back to the farm because things are going to be weird and they have to check up on their sheep and stuff. And I like that the father kind of believes him. When it comes to any mythology or any type of narrative where the father or the parent finds out or figures out what happened, they either get their mind erased or they die. And we're going to see what happens, but he does believe him. So this goes on to the next chapter, which is called Winter Night, where Tam and Rand go back to the farm. Everything seems kind of normal, very mundane. Like, even Tam's, like, locking up for the first time. Like, it's a really weird thing because it's just him and Rand on the farm, even though they have, like, this really nice, almost ranch-style house, even though it isn't because it has, it's weird, like, Robert Jordan describes it almost like a ranch-style house, but then it has, like, an attic and things. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what it is. But they settle down for the night, and they start cooking stew. Rand is like, I gotta check up and do all my chores. And then we find out Tam has a sword, like he's packing heat in this way because he bought it years and years and years ago. And the way they describe this sword is interesting because it has like a heron on it, like a bird, and it's very ornate in this way of like, it looks like an average sword, but it has like this main characteristic to it, which I don't think is probably significant, but they keep describing it. I really liked how the sword sounded, and that it's always sharp, and it almost it sounds like a katana a little bit, but it's probably not. But it sounds cool. I like how they have that. But then while they're eating their stew and kind of talking about how, what use does a sword have to a sheep farmer, a freaking Trolloc or whatever a dark creature comes in with like these ram horns and is just like this weird disfigured creature of like just pure nightmare. It actually reminds me of, I don't know why this reminds me of this, but there's a creature in Deathstalker 1 that looks kind of like this. I'm just going to put a picture up on screen there. It's not a good movie. I don't know why this came to my mind, but this is what I thought of. Or maybe like a Gamorrean guard with like ram horns might be another one. But yeah, so those are kind of what happens. Tam kind of leads the Trolloc because there's a whole ambush like away. Rand tries to escape. Rand comes back, finds his dad kind of hurt a little bit. But then like he goes back into the house to get some supplies, and he meets a Trolloc named Narg. And I love that because like, it was actually my mind, or even now, is like, Narg, good, don't hurt, Narg. And I was like laughing a little bit because I love when you have like creatures that have weird ways of saying things when you know they're obviously evil. Would Narg lie to you? I guess I'm going more into Yoda. Narg, I must. Kill you, I must. Yum, yum. But Rand actually kills this thing because it charges after him after Rand's like, oh, I believe you. And Rand actually kills someone, so this is the first time he's actually killed something, and it's actually horrifying the reaction that we get in the description that Robert Jordan gives, because Rand has no comprehension of what he just did. He just knows that there's blood on the blade and that he has to wipe it off, and it's like this horrifying scene. And I actually like how Robert Jordan writes fight scenes. You have a really understanding of spatial awareness, which is really hard when it comes to a lot of books, because sometimes you have fantasy books or just action books in general where Rand parried right, Narg parried left, parry, 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 block, 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 dodge, 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 stab. Whereas here you understand the spatial awareness of the table and the sword, and there's not even a parry or a swing really, it's just a stab. And I kind of like that a little bit, which I really did enjoy about this, was you have that spatial awareness, you have Rand, you have these creatures of really just these minion goblin creatures, which I really did enjoy. But Rand's able to get away, and we kind of figure that, okay, this is the worst of it. But turns out, okay, we're getting more into Lord of the Rings stuff. Tam is horribly injured, but it turns out, I guess, the blade or whatever, because it feels like he got stabbed like a little Nick, but now he is burning up. He's having this fever. It's a lot like when Frodo gets stabbed by the ring wraith, and it turns out there's poison on the blade, and now they have to get back to a. Well, that car was buzzing. Wow. And now they have to get back to the town, and things are going from bad to worse. And I have a feeling that Emond's Field is probably also going to be attacked in this way, because it isn't just an isolated incident, because there were too many of them, and also they were there for a specific purpose, because they're in the middle of bum truck nowhere, so it's a real effort. Whereas it's a nice town, which we've already established at these Trollocs, as Rand was walking through just murdering sheep because they like killing. So this is all horrifying stuff. And that's kind of the cool stuff that I like about this, is we're getting the action. I was actually surprised that the action stuff is actually happening right now. I thought it was going to be during Beltane, during the festival, they're going to have the sacking of the town, but they're really kicking off this adventure. They already have danger and action, and I'm only 100 pages in. So the adventure's going to start very, very soon, and we're going to go from there. My predictions is that Rand's going to get Tam back to town, and Tam's either going to die from his wounds, or Tam's going to sacrifice himself. I don't see Tam living throughout this narrative all that much, and that's kind of my big thing. We'll see who else is alive. I think Matt and Perrin are going to be alive. I think Moraine and Lan, because Lan obviously is going to kick some butt. They're going to help. I have a feeling a bunch of the characters that we haven't seen, like Simbui or even Egwene's innkeeper, mayor, dad, will die, and that's something that might happen. And we're gonna see what happens here. I think the town's going to be burned. It's going to be ruined by war in a way where it's going to be very hard for it to recover. It's never going to have a status quo. So we will see. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Vlog of Time. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope the car sounds aren't too much. I hope you enjoy all the video stuff that I've been posting with us, because it'll be a nice accompaniment to this. So I hope you all enjoy that. I hope you all have an amazing day. I hope you all stay safe out there. Well, everyone, like always, I'm Zach, and if you really like this video, maybe consider subscribing or liking. What did you guys think of these chapters? Did you like them? Did you hate them? What are some things that I might missed? If I say things wrong or mispronounce characters' names, I apologize for that. I'm still working on that. A lot of that has to do with a speech impediment, but we go from there, and I have a nice pronunciation guide, so we go from there. It's nice. Well, everyone, like always, may your food and drink ever be tasteful, and may your books be filled with fantasy and adventure. Bye, everyone. See ya!